Zethkar pressed his clawed finger against the blue screen floating in front of him. The words on the display made no sense. He read them again, slower this time. Directive. Omega-7. Humans are off limits. No attacks, no taking their worlds, no stealing their resources. Breaking this rule means your entire species dies. The young officer looked around the command deck of the warship. Other aliens worked at their stations, their scales and tentacles moving as they pressed buttons and checked readings. None of them seemed worried about the strange rule. Zethkar had joined the Galactic Federation military 3 months ago. He came from Keth Prime, a world where his people had fought wars for thousands of years. He understood military rules. But this one was different. The Federation controlled over 10,000 worlds. They had rules for everything. Rules about trade, rules about warfare, rules about which species could visit which planets. Most rules made sense. This one did not. He pulled up more information on his screen. Humans lived on a small blue world called Earth. They had been in space for less than 200 years. Their ships were decent but not amazing. Their weapons worked but were not the best in the galaxy. They controlled maybe 50 worlds, which was tiny compared to the great empires. So why were they protected by the strongest rule Zethkar had ever seen? He scrolled through more files. The Krillian Empire controlled 3,000 worlds. Their protection level was Class 5. The ancient Voth, who had been in space for 50,000 years, were Class 7. Humans were Class 12. The scale only went to 12. Officer Zethkar, a deep voice said behind him. Zethkar turned to see Commander Vexthul walking toward him. The commander was old, even by Kethian standards. His scales were dark with age and scars covered his arms from many battles. Yes, Commander? You look confused, Vexthul said, stopping next to Zethkar's station. What troubles you? Zethkar pointed at his screen. This directive about humans. I do not understand it. They seem like a normal species. Not very powerful, not very advanced. Why are they protected more than anyone else? Commander Vexthul was quiet for a long moment. His yellow eyes stared at the screen, then at the stars outside the ship's windows. How old are you, officer? The commander asked. 37 standard years, sir. I am 115. I have seen many species rise and fall. I have fought in 12 wars and watched empires crumble to dust. Vexthul turned to look directly at Zethkar. In all that time, I have learned one important truth. Some rules exist to protect us from others. Some rules exist to protect others from us. And some rules exist to protect everyone from terrible mistakes. Which type is this rule, sir? All three. Zethkar waited for more explanation, but the commander said nothing else. Sir, may I ask what happened? Why do humans have this protection? Vexthul walked to the large window that showed the stars. His reflection looked old and tired in the glass. 46 years ago, I was a young officer like you. I served on a ship in the Federation patrol fleet. We thought we understood the galaxy. We thought we knew which species were dangerous and which were weak. The commander paused. Other officers on the bridge had stopped their work and were listening now. The Zelani Empire was strong then. They controlled over 4,000 worlds. Their military was feared across the galaxy. They decided that a small new species called humans would make good slaves. Zethkar felt his stomach tighten. He had heard of the Zelani. They had been one of the great powers. Past tense, what happened to them? He asked quietly. They learned why humans are off limits, Commander Vexthul said. The hard way. The commander turned back to face the bridge. His expression was serious, almost sad. You want to know why we have Directive Omega-7? Because 46 years ago, the galaxy learned something terrible and wonderful about humans. We learned that they are not like other species. When you attack most species, they fight back or they surrender. Humans do something else, and what do? They learn. They adapt. They become something more dangerous than they were before. Vexthul walked back to Zethkar's station. The Zelani thought humans were weak because they had not seen them truly threatened. None of us had. Zethkar looked at his screen again. The directive still showed the same words, but now they felt different. More important. More frightening. Sir, are humans really that dangerous? Humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy when they need to be. But they are also the most peaceful when they choose to be. The commander leaned closer. That choice, Officer Zethkar, is what makes them truly terrifying. A younger officer at another station turned around. Commander, Is it true that humans destroyed the entire Zilani fleet in 8 months? Commander Vexthul nodded slowly. Yes, but that is not the scary part. What is the scary part? Sethkar asked. They could have done it in 8 days. They chose to take 8 months because they were hoping the Zilani would surrender and stop the killing. The commander's voice became quieter. Humans do not enjoy war, officer. That is what makes them so good at it. The bridge was very quiet now. Everyone was listening. The Zilani are gone now, Vexthul continued. Not dead, but no longer an empire. They live on one world under human protection. The humans could have destroyed them completely. Instead, they rebuilt Zilani society and taught them to be peaceful. Zethkar tried to imagine his own proud people accepting help from those who had defeated them. It was difficult to picture. How did the humans defeat them so completely? That is classified information, officer. But I will tell you this much. Every species has limits. Physical limits, mental limits, technological limits. When most species reach their limits, they stop growing. Humans are different. Different how? Commander Vexthul looked out at the stars again. Humans have no limits. When they face something too difficult, they do not give up. They change themselves until the difficult thing becomes easy. The Zilani thought they were fighting the same humans who had just learned to travel between stars. They were wrong. The commander started walking toward his command chair. By the end of the war, they were fighting humans who had advanced 500 years in 8 months. Not their technology, themselves. Sethkar felt a chill run down his spine. Is that possible? For humans, anything is possible if they are threatened enough. Commander Vexthul sat down in his chair. That is why they are off limits, officer. Not because we fear them, but because we respect them, and because we never want to see what they become when they are truly desperate. The commander activated his command console. Now let us return to our patrol duties. We are 3 days from the human border. Our job is to make sure nothing disturbs their peace. Zethkar looked at his screen one more time. The directive was still there, but now he understood it differently. It was not just a rule. It was a warning. A reminder of something the galaxy had learned the hard way. Humans were off limits because no one wanted to learn that lesson again. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main screen. It had been 6 months since first contact with the Galactic Federation. 6 months of careful talks and peaceful meetings. 6 months of hope for humanity's future among the stars. That hope died 12 hours ago. Admiral, we are receiving reports from all colonies, Lieutenant Brooks said from his station. His voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the pain underneath. New Haven is gone. 2.3 million people. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. New Haven had been humanity's newest colony, filled with families and children. It was supposed to be safe, far from any conflict zones. What about the other colonies? She asked. Sparta base is under attack. They are holding for now, but barely. The Zilani fleet is moving toward the Kepler system next. Sarah opened her eyes and looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed Zilani ships throughout human space. The attack had come without warning, without any demands or threats. One moment there was peace, the next moment human colonies were burning. Status of the fleet? 37 ships ready for combat, Admiral. Another 20 can join us in 6 hours, Sarah almost laughed. 57 human ships against the Zilani Empire's 4,000. The math was simple and brutal. Ma'am, Communications Officer Park said, we are receiving a message from the Zilani flagship. Put it on screen. The display changed to show a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. Admiral Kesthan of the Zilani fleet looked at Sarah with what she assumed was amusement. Human Admiral, the alien said in perfect English. I am Kesthan. I speak for the Zilani Empire. You will surrender your remaining colonies immediately. Why? Sarah asked simply. Because your species is weak and your worlds are valuable. You have had 6 months to prove you belong among the stars. You have failed. Sarah felt anger burning in her chest, but her voice stayed calm. We have done nothing wrong. We followed all Federation laws. We harmed no one. You existed when we need your worlds. That is wrong enough. Kesthan leaned forward. You have 1 day to surrender all human colonies and return to your birth world. If you refuse, we will destroy every human in space. The screen went dark. Lieutenant Brooks looked up from his station. Admiral, Earth Defense Command is asking for orders. Sarah stared at the empty screen. Around her, the bridge crew waited quietly. These people had joined the space fleet to explore and defend, not to fight a war against impossible odds. She thought about New Haven. about the families who had gone there to build new lives, about the children who would never grow up now. Open a channel to all human ships and colonies, she said. Channel open, Admiral. Sarah stood straighter, her voice carried to every human in space. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. 12 hours ago, the Zilani Empire attacked our colonies without warning. They murdered 2.3 million people on New Haven. Now they demand we surrender everything we have built. She paused, looking at each member of her bridge crew. They chose to attack us because they think we are weak. They think we will give up our homes and our future, because they have more ships than we do. They think they understand what humans do when threatened. The bridge was completely silent now. They are wrong. They have made the greatest mistake in their civilization's history. They think this is the end of humanity's time in space. Instead, this is the beginning of the end of theirs. Sarah walked closer to the main screen as if she could look directly at every human listening. To all colony defenders, hold your positions. Help is coming. To all ship captains, prepare for immediate deployment. To Earth, begin full military production immediately. She took a deep breath. The Zilani wanted to see what humans do when threatened. They burned New Haven to test our resolve. Now they will learn what humans do when you murder our families. Sarah turned to her tactical officer. Commander Rodriguez, start preparing our battle plans. I want options for hitting Zilani supply lines, command ships, and military bases. Admiral, with respect, we are outnumbered almost 100 to 1. Yes, we are today. Sarah smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Lieutenant Brooks, send a message to Dr. Harrison at the Technology Development Center. Tell him we need everything he has been working on, finished or not, and tell him we need it in 72 hours. Ma'am, some of those projects were years away from completion. Not anymore. Sarah sat down in her command chair. Also contact Colonel Zhang at the Military Academy. I want every human with military training ready for deployment within the week. Communications Officer Park looked confused. Admiral, the Academy only has training ships. They cannot fight the Zilani fleet. They will not be fighting the Zilani fleet as it exists today, Sarah said quietly. Open a channel to Dr. Kim at the Xenobiology Research Station. Channel open. Dr. Kim, this is Admiral Chen. I need everything you have learned about Zilani biology, psychology, and culture. Everything. Admiral, most of that information is academic research, not military intelligence. It is now. How long do Zilani live? What do they fear? How do they make decisions? What do they value most? There was a pause. Admiral, are you planning to fight a war or study them? Both. We are going to fight them in ways they cannot understand or prepare for. We are going to learn everything about them while they learn nothing new about us. Sarah stood up again and walked to the tactical display. Red markers showed Zilani positions throughout human space. She studied them carefully. The Zilani think they are fighting the same humans they met 6 months ago, she said to her crew. They think they know what we are capable of. They are about to discover they know nothing at all. She turned back to face her officers. Right now, we are the underdogs. We have fewer ships, fewer weapons, fewer people. In any normal war, we would lose quickly. Sarah's voice became harder. But this will not be a normal war. The Zilani made this personal when they killed families. They made this desperate when they threatened our existence. They have given us the two things humans need to become truly dangerous. What are those, Admiral? Lieutenant Brooks asked. A reason to win and nothing left to lose. Sarah looked at each of her officers. These people had trained for exploration and peacekeeping. Now they would have to become something else entirely. In 3 months, the galaxy will still remember the Zilani Empire as one of the great powers. In 6 months, they will remember it as a cautionary tale. She sat back down in her command chair. Signal the fleet. We begin operations in 6 hours. As her crew worked to carry out her orders, Sarah stared at the tactical display. The red markers showing enemy positions looked overwhelming now. She wondered what they would look like in a few months after humans had time to adapt to this new reality. The Zilani thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they had cornered wolves. Admiral Kesthon stared at the tactical display in his command center. 3 months had passed since the war began. 3 months since his forces had easily destroyed the human colony of New Haven. He had expected the war to be over by now. Instead, something impossible was happening. Report, he commanded his tactical officer. Sir, we have lost contact with the 4th Battle Group. That is 7 ships, including the heavy cruiser Domination. Kezthan's forearms tightened into fists. Where were they attacked? The Kepler system, sir. But that is the strange part. Our sensors show no human ships in that area. The 4th battle group simply stopped responding. This made no sense. Human ships could not just disappear Zilani battle groups. 3 months ago, human ships had been barely capable of fighting single Zilani vessels. Now entire squadrons were vanishing. What about the supply convoy to Sector 7? Also missing, sir. All 12 cargo ships and their escorts. Kezthan walked to the large window showing space around his flagship. Out there, hundreds of Zilani ships patrolled human space. They should control everything. Instead, they were being picked apart piece by piece. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it on screen. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the display. She looked tired but not defeated. Behind her, Kezthan could see the bridge of a human ship that looked different from the ones they had fought 3 months ago. The technology seemed more advanced somehow. Admiral Kezthan, the human said calmly, I am contacting you to offer terms for your withdrawal from human space. Kezthan laughed. You offer terms to me? You are losing this war, human. Your colonies fall one by one. Are we losing? Chen asked. She seemed genuinely curious. Let me check the current situation. She looked at something off-screen. In the past week, you have lost 47 ships, including 2 command vessels. We have lost 3 ships. Your supply lines are cut in 12 systems. Your forward bases in 6 systems are now non-operational. Kezthan felt cold. Those numbers were accurate. Your forces, Chen continued, are scattered across human space hunting for an enemy they cannot find. Meanwhile, we are learning everything about your ships, your tactics, and your weaknesses. Impossible. We have fought wars for thousands of years. You have been in space for barely 2 centuries. Yes, that is your first mistake. Chen leaned forward slightly. You are fighting this war the way you have always fought wars. We are fighting this war in ways that have never been tried before. The transmission ended. Kezthan stood in silence for a moment. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. Tactical officer explained to me how humans are destroying our ships without being detected. Sir, we are not sure. Our sensors show human ships appearing in systems where none should be. They attack quickly and then vanish again. It is as if they can move through space in ways we do not understand. That is impossible. We know human technology. We studied it for months before the war. Yes, sir. But their technology appears to have changed. Kezthan felt a chill. Species did not change their technology in months. It took years, sometimes decades, to develop new weapons and ships. Show me records of recent human ship encounters. The tactical display changed to show video from Zilani ship sensors. Kezthan watched human ships moving in patterns that should not be possible. They seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing behind Zilani formations without warning. When did humans develop this technology? Unknown, sir. 3 months ago, their ships moved like normal vessels. Now they move like nothing we have seen before. Kezthan studied the videos more carefully. The human ships were not just using new technology. They were using new tactics, new strategies, new ways of thinking about warfare itself. Sir, his communications officer said, we are receiving reports from the home fleet. Human ships have been detected near Zilani Prime. What? That is impossible. Zilani Prime is 8,000 light-years from human space. Yes, sir, but long-range sensors confirm it. A small human fleet is moving toward our homeworld. Kezthan felt panic rising in his chest. The home fleet was strong, but it was not prepared for the kind of warfare humans had been developing. Send immediate orders to the home fleet. Full defensive positions around Zilani Prime. All civilian shipping is to evacuate immediately. Sir, should we recall our forces from human space? Kezthan considered this. If he pulled his fleets back to defend Zilani Prime, humans would reclaim their colonies. But if he left Zilani Prime undefended, no, the humans are bluffing. They do not have enough ships to threaten our homeworld. 3 days later, Kezthan received a message that changed everything. Sir, Zilani Prime has surrendered. What? The human fleet arrived in the Zilani system 6 hours ago. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they sent a message to the planetary government. What did the message say? His communications officer looked at his console nervously. The humans gave our people a choice. Surrender immediately and be treated according to galactic law, or face the consequences of continuing this war. And our home fleet? Sir, the human fleet disabled every ship in the system without destroying a single one. Our people are alive but helpless. Kezathan sat down heavily in his command chair. This was impossible. Humans could not have reached Zilani Prime so quickly. They could not have defeated the home fleet so easily. How many human ships were involved in this attack? 12, sir. 12 ships had defeated the entire Zilani home defense fleet. 12 human ships had traveled 8,000 light-years in 3 days and conquered the heart of the Zilani Empire. Sir, we are receiving another transmission from Admiral Chen. The human appeared on screen again. This time she was not on a ship bridge. She was standing on what looked like the balcony of the Zilani Government Center on Zilani Prime. Admiral Kezathan, she said calmly. Your homeworld is under human protection now. Your people are safe, but your government has agreed to unconditional surrender. Kezathan could barely speak. How? How did you do this? We learned, Chen said simply. 3 months ago you attacked us because you thought we were weak. You were right, we were weak. But humans have a special ability, Admiral. When we are threatened, we do not just fight back. We become whatever we need to become to survive. Chen walked closer to the camera. For 3 months you have been fighting humans as we were when this war started. But we have not stayed the same. Every battle taught us something new. Every defeat made us stronger. Every day of this war changed us into something more dangerous than we were before. This is impossible. Species do not evolve in months. Other species do not. Humans do. Chen's expression became sad. We did not want this war, Admiral. We offered peace. We followed galactic law. We harmed no one. You chose to murder our families because you thought we were helpless, she paused. Now you understand that humans are never helpless. We are only unprepared, and we do not stay unprepared for long. The transmission ended, leaving Kezathan staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders. But what orders could he give? The war was over, and somehow, impossibly, humans had won. Elder Kethmore of the Ankari floated in the meditation chamber aboard the Federation Council ship, Eternal Wisdom. Around him, representatives from 12 of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful species waited in respectful silence. The Ankari were energy beings, pure thought given form. They had existed for 50,000 years and had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless shore. Very little surprised them anymore. The war between humans and the Zilani Empire had surprised them greatly. The reports are confirmed, Kethmore said without opening what others might call eyes. His voice echoed in the minds of everyone present. The Zilani Empire has surrendered completely. Total capitulation in 8 months. Council member Vex of the crystalline Voth Collective chimed softly, his crystal body resonating with confusion. This should not be possible. The Zilani controlled 4,000 worlds. They had been a major power for 6,000 years. The humans had 57 ships when the war began, added General Thross of the Hegemony Fleet. Even accounting for rapid construction, they could not have built enough ships to match Zilani forces. Kethmore finally opened his perception to the physical realm, his energy form becoming more solid. That is because they did not match Zilani forces. They surpassed them in ways we do not fully understand. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing the final battle at Zilani Prime. 12 human ships moved through space in patterns that defied conventional physics. Observe their movement, Kethmore said. They are not using standard propulsion. They appear to manipulate space-time itself. Ambassador Quilin of the Ethereal Dominion spoke in her musical voice. Impossible. Space-time manipulation requires technology we have been developing for millennia. Humans have been in space for 2 centuries. Had been developing for 2 centuries, Kethmore corrected. Recent intelligence suggests human technological development has accelerated beyond all known parameters. The display changed to show internal scans of human ships. The technology visible in the images was unlike anything in Federation databases. Their ships now incorporate technologies from at least 7 different scientific disciplines, Kethmore continued. Quantum mechanics, dimensional manipulation, consciousness integration, temporal mechanics, adaptive materials, predictive computation, and something our analysts are calling evolutionary engineering. General Thross leaned forward. What is evolutionary engineering? Technology that improves itself. Human ships from 8 months ago bear no resemblance to human ships today. Not because they built new ships, but because their existing ships learned and adapted during combat. The chamber fell silent. This violated everything they understood about technological development. Council member Vex chimed again, this time with what sounded like fear. Are you suggesting human technology is alive? We are suggesting human technology is learning at the same rate humans learn. And humans, as we have discovered, learn very quickly when properly motivated. The display changed again, showing Admiral Sarah Chen addressing the Zilani government on their homeworld. We have been monitoring human communications throughout the war, Kethmore said. We have learned disturbing things about human psychology. Ambassador Quilin tilted her head. Disturbing how? Other species fight wars to gain territory, resources, or dominance. Humans appear to fight wars to ensure they never have to fight that war again. General Thross did not understand. Explain. When the Zilani attacked New Haven, they were testing human resolve. They expected humans to surrender or negotiate. Instead, humans began what they call adaptive response. The display showed human colonies and ships throughout the war. At first, they looked like normal human technology. By the end, they were almost unrecognizable. Humans do not simply defend against threats, Kethmore continued. They evolve beyond threats. The Zilani attack forced humans to become something the Zilani could not defeat. In 8 months, humans advanced their civilization by what our analysts estimate to be 500 years. The silence in the chamber was profound. 500 years, whispered Ambassador Quilin. Minimum? Possibly more. Human development appears to accelerate exponentially under pressure. Council member Vex's crystal form flickered with distress. What are humans now? What have they become? That, Kethmore said, is why we are here. The display changed to show human ships approaching the council vessel. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls seeming to shift and adapt as they traveled through space. Admiral Chen has agreed to meet with us. We must determine what humanity has become and what they intend to do with their new capabilities. The chamber's main screen activated, showing the approach of a single human ship. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, its design incorporating principles that should not work together. Admiral Chen is requesting permission to come aboard, General Thross reported. Grant it, Kethmore said, but be prepared for anything. 20 minutes later, Admiral Sarah Chen walked into the council chamber. She looked exactly as she had 8 months ago, but something about her presence felt different, more aware, more dangerous. Honored council members, she said politely, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Elder Kethmore studied her carefully with senses beyond the physical. What he perceived made him deeply uneasy. Admiral Chen, we wish to understand what has happened to humanity during this war. Sarah looked around the chamber, taking in each council member. Her eyes showed an intelligence that seemed impossibly deep. We learned, she said simply. Learned what? What we are capable of when we have no choice but to succeed. Sarah moved to the center of the chamber, standing where the holographic displays had been. 8 months ago, humans were a young species with limited technology and peaceful intentions. The Zilani Empire decided to test whether we deserve to exist among the stars. She paused, and somehow her presence filled the entire chamber. They got their answer. General Thross leaned forward. Your technology has advanced impossibly fast. How? When you threaten human families, every human becomes a scientist, an engineer, a soldier, and a strategist all at once. We do not have the luxury of taking decades to develop new technologies when our children are dying, Sarah gestured. And suddenly the air around her filled with complex mathematical equations and engineering diagrams that appeared from nowhere. We compressed 5 centuries of normal development into 8 months because normal development was not fast enough to save our people. The council members stared at the floating equations. They represented advances in physics that should have taken millennia to develop. What do you intend to do now? Elder Kethmore asked carefully. Sarah looked directly at him, and he felt her mind brush against his in ways that should not be possible for a physical being. We intend to make sure this never happens again, she said, to any species, anywhere. The equations around her vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The galaxy will be peaceful because we choose to make it peaceful. Not through conquest, but through making war too costly for anyone to consider. Elder Kethmore felt something he had not experienced in thousands of years. Fear. Not fear of human aggression, but fear of human capability. These beings had become something beyond normal evolution in less than a year. What would they become given time? Officer Zethkar stood at attention as the shuttle bay doors opened on the Federation Council ship. 46 years had passed since the war between humans and the Zilani Empire. Today, he would finally understand why Directive Omega-7 existed. The shuttle that landed was unlike anything he had ever seen. It moved without visible engines and seemed to be made of materials that shifted color in the light. When it touched down, it made no sound at all. 3 figures stepped out of the shuttle. The first was clearly human, an elderly woman with silver hair and calm eyes. Behind her came 2 others that looked human, but moved with an impossible grace that made Zethkar's scales tingle with unease. "Welcome aboard," Commander Vexthul said formally. "I am Commander Vexthul of the Hegemony Fleet. This is Officer Zethkar." The elderly human woman smiled warmly. "Thank you, Commander. I am Elena Vasquez, President of the United Earth Government. These are my advisors, Dr. Kim and Captain Torres." Zethkar studied the 3 humans carefully. They looked normal enough, but something about them felt different from other species he had met. They seemed more aware of their surroundings, more present somehow. "Madam President," Commander Vexthul said, "we are honored by your visit. Officer Zethkar has questions about human history that I thought you might answer better than I could." President Vasquez nodded and looked directly at Zethkar. Her eyes were kind but seemed to see more than they should. "Ask your questions, officer. I will answer what I can." Zethkar hesitated. After 46 years, the war between humans and the Zilani had become almost legend. Some details were classified. Others seemed too incredible to believe. "Madam President, I have read the reports about the war with the Zilani, but I do not understand how humans change so quickly. How did you advance centuries of technology in 8 months?" President Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Then she walked to the large window showing the stars outside. "Do you have children, Officer Zethkar?" "Yes, Madam President. 2 daughters. If someone threatened to kill your daughters, how far would you go to protect them?" Zethkar felt his protective instincts surge just thinking about it. "I would do anything necessary." "Anything?" "Yes," President Vasquez nodded. "That is what humans did. The Zilani did not just attack our military or threaten our government. They murdered families. They killed children. They made it personal." She turned back to face him. "When you make survival personal for humans, we do not just fight harder. We become something different." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Officer, what do you know about human biology?" "Basic information. You are carbon-based, similar to many species." "That is correct. But humans have one biological trait that makes us unique in the galaxy. Our brains never stop adapting. Most species reach mental maturity and remain stable. Human minds continue changing throughout our lives." Captain Torres added, "When the war began, every human became focused on a single goal: survival of our species. 8 billion minds working together, sharing ideas instantly, building on each other's discoveries." Zethkar tried to imagine 8 billion minds working as one. The concept was overwhelming. How is that possible? President Vasquez smiled sadly. "Desperation, officer. When the Zilani attacked New Haven, they did not just kill 2 million people. They unified every human alive in a way that had never happened before." Commander Vexthul stepped forward. "Madam President, may I ask what humans are capable of now? 46 years after the war? That depends on what you mean by capable, Commander." Dr. Kim activated a small device, and suddenly the air around them filled with images. Star maps, technological diagrams, mathematical equations that seemed to move and change as they watched. "We can travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly," Dr. Kim said casually. "We can manipulate matter at the quantum level. We can process information faster than most AI systems. We can predict probable futures with high accuracy." The images showed human colonies on distant worlds, human ships moving between dimensions, humans working alongside technologies that defied physics. "We can do all of this," President Vasquez said, "but we choose not to use most of these capabilities." Zethkar was confused. "Why not?" "Because power without wisdom is dangerous. The Zilani had great power but little wisdom. That is why they fell." Captain Torres gestured, and the images changed to show the current galaxy. Human space was still relatively small compared to the great empires, but it was surrounded by peaceful, prosperous worlds. We learned during the war that strength is not about how much you can destroy, Captain Torres said. True strength is about how much you can protect. President Vasquez walked back to the window. Officer Zethkar, do you know what humans fear most? No, Madam President. Ourselves. We know what we can become when threatened. We know how quickly we can evolve beyond recognition. We fear that if we use our full capabilities, we might lose what makes us human. The room was very quiet. The floating images slowly faded away. That is why Directive Omega-7 exists, President Vasquez continued. Not because the galaxy fears human aggression, but because the galaxy understands human restraint. We could control everything if we chose to. Instead, we choose to protect everything. Commander Vexthul spoke softly. The Zilani thought they were fighting sheep and discovered they had cornered wolves. No, Commander. They thought they were fighting sheep and discovered they had cornered shepherds. Wolves kill threats. Shepherds protect the entire flock. Zethkar finally understood. You could have destroyed the Zilani Empire completely. Yes, instead we helped them rebuild as a peaceful society. They now live under human protection on their homeworld, safer than they ever were as conquerors. President Vasquez turned from the window to face them directly. Every species in the galaxy is under human protection now, whether they know it or not. Not because we rule them, but because we choose to ensure their safety. Pirates, conquerors, warmongers, they all think twice now before attacking innocent worlds. Because they fear human retaliation, because they know human response. We do not retaliate, officer. We prevent. When someone threatens peace in the galaxy, humans appear and the threat simply stops existing. Not destroyed, just changed into something peaceful. Dr. Kim smiled. We learned during the war that changing enemies into friends is more effective than destroying them. Zethkar felt a chill of understanding. How many species have humans changed? 17 in the past 46 years, Captain Torres said matter-of-factly. All of them are now productive members of galactic civilization. All of them thank us for the intervention. President Vasquez walked closer to Zethkar. Officer, you wanted to understand Directive Omega-7. Here is the truth. Humans are off limits not because we demanded it, but because the galaxy requested it. Every major species begged us to accept special protection. Why? Because they understand what the Zilani learned too late. Threatening humans does not make us angry or afraid. It makes us grow. Every challenge makes us stronger, smarter, more capable. She paused. The galaxy does not want to see what we become if we face another existential threat, so they protect us from threats and we protect them from everything else. Commander Vexthul bowed respectfully. We are honored by your protection, Madam President. Commander, we are all part of the same galactic community. Humans simply chose to be the guardians instead of the rulers. President Vasquez looked at Zethkar one more time. Officer, do you understand now why humans are off limits? Zethkar nodded slowly. Because peace is more valuable than power. Exactly. And because humans learned that the greatest victory is never having to fight at all. As the humans prepared to leave, Zethkar realized he had one more question. Madam President, what would happen if someone did attack humans again? Despite the directive? President Vasquez stopped at the shuttle bay door. Her expression became sad but determined. Then humanity would evolve again, officer. We would become whatever we needed to become to survive, and neither the galaxy nor we ourselves know what that might be. She smiled gently. That is why everyone prefers peace. The shuttle departed silently, leaving Zethkar with a complete understanding of Directive Omega-7. Humans were off limits because they had chosen to be guardians instead of conquerors, protectors instead of rulers, and the galaxy was safer because of that choice.